Well, hey there, Shaw viewers. It's Mayor Ken again this morning, and great to be with you again. And my goodness, today we're a little off-site. We're here in that great downtown at a wonderful yoga studio and coffee bar named Vibe. It's just a pleasure to be here with Nathan and the crew. And with me this morning, I'm joined by Deputy Mayor Kramer Barnstable this morning. A great addition to our council team. So great to be with you, and let's get started.
At Tuesday's council meeting, council reviewed council start times and council parking details. Mayor Johnson, can you talk about why these items have come forward to council at this time?
Well, one of the curiosities, I'll just say it that way, of government or municipal government is that council needs to act by resolution. So in other words, it has to be a public decision so that the public can see how council arrived at it. So administration needed to bring that to council, both items, as you say, the start times and so on, so that council could give that clarity to administration. I think the irony is they look like tiny items, and in the great scheme of things, you kind of wonder why they're there, but they are there so that administration can get the direction that it needs.
Councillor Barnstable, there was conversation about the length of council meetings, and you mentioned longer council meetings are a sign of an engaged and committed council. Can you talk a bit about what you meant by that?
Yeah, so what I've learned so far with being a part of this council is just how active our group is and how much that all of us want to get the job done. More importantly, we want to get it done right. And so if that means that it has to go around the table a few more times to get everyone's voices heard, that usually results in a longer meeting. And I know that since the start, our meetings have been a little bit longer off the get-go than maybe what they've been in the past. But I see that as a good thing. I see that as a council that's engaged, and everyone wants to make sure that the decisions we're coming to are the best for the community, and they're not just, we're getting close to the clock, so we need to make a decision. I think that if we take a little bit longer and if our meetings have to start a little bit earlier, I think that's a good sign for where Red Deer's headed.
And council approved second and third reading of amendments to the Vehicles for Hire bylaw, adding shuttle services. Councillor Barnstable, what does this amendment provide to residents seeking shuttle services in our community?
I think for me, it gives the community a little more consistency, a little bit more safety. Not saying that it wasn't safe in the past, but just having those extra background checks and added in with the other different types of vehicle services for hire that you can get now that you have shuttle services included with the same rules and regulations that everyone else has to abide by. It adds that extra level of consistency and safety, and people know that everyone's had the same background checks. And I think it's one of those things that it's needed for a while, and now that we have everything in line, that it will set up well for people that use the shuttle services.
Mayor Johnson, what was the gap that was identified to trigger this amendment?
Well, Deputy Mayor Barnstable identified several gaps actually when he talked about the consistency of the experience from a safety perspective and from a regulatory perspective. It's a curious landscape when you get into vehicle for hire. The evolution started with the obvious being taxis, and then of course Uber came on the scene, of course, and shuttle services now sort of find themselves actually a little bit between the two. A shuttle is described as a definite departure location and a definite arrival location, and so on. And so it became very apparent to our administration and in consultation with the shuttle industry, the Uber industry, the taxi industry, that the main gap was really leveling the playing field for all players in that industry. So the gaps that Councillor Barnstable have identified were the primary ones. And now what happens is that shuttles and Uber and taxis and drivers for hire, designated drivers, for example, all find themselves with the same layer of consistency, same layer of safety, same layer of driver competency, so the public can have that confidence no matter what choice they make.
Council conducted a public hearing last night for the potential rezoning of Quality Inn to accommodate future residential uses on the site. That was passed, and it is now C4 for mixed use. Councillor Barnstable, what did you hear from the public in regards to this rezoning application?
Yeah, sure. So we had 2 letters written in, and we also had a caller that called in, and it was great because the callers actually represented one for and one against, and the one against was also one of the letters, and I believe it was Ms. Barrett that called in from last night. And I understand the concerns that were there, and I understand where people can go with as far as when change happens and there's a picture that's painted that can be maybe a darker picture. But we believe, and with council, that there's the developers and the people that are being involved are going to do what's right. And I personally feel like it's a great opportunity for that rezoning to be something that's going to be a positive change in that area of town. And only time will tell. Obviously, I know that there are concerns with that community that's nearby, with the cul-de-sac and the street that's close. And you know, their voices were heard last night for sure. And it wasn't a decision that we made lightly, but I think it's one that we're hopeful that everything goes the right way. And I think the mayor alluded to as well that there are still other rezoning pieces that are coming forward within that. And so it's not written in stone with everything that's going on. There's still some other pieces that are going to come along, and there'll be other opportunities for the community's voices to be heard on that.
Mayor Johnston, there have actually been several hotels in Red Deer that have applied to convert hotel rooms to multi-family dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this is occurring here and across Alberta?
Well, I think there's a couple of obvious indicators post-COVID, let's put it that way. There's certainly been an enormous effect on the whole hospitality industry and the number of hotel rooms and so on. We also had an economic dip, of course, prior to this, which also impacted the hotel industry. And now it finds itself emerging into an inflationary market, into a high energy price market, all of those factors which affect people's mobility choice, if you will, their choice to move from destination to destination, things like that. Essentially, the hotel industry, I think, is really filling a needed gap, because in concert with those risks that I pointed out on one hand, there's a need for housing on the other hand, and quite a pronounced need for housing as it becomes less and less affordable. You know, one thing I give council credit for last night was really speaking to what affordable housing is today in 2022. You know, affordable housing now is stretching right across all economic levels and ages and demographics, you know, the ability to afford shelter. And so the hotel industry has come in and offered itself in, for example, in the zoning that we did last night, it's offered itself now and council approved a zoning that will allow to reinvent themselves into a commercial and retail and housing space all at once if it wants to do that. And Deputy Mayor Barnstable brought up a great point. People sometimes look at a zoning application as if that's the use of the property. It's not the use of the property, it's the use of the land and the property. So what will happen next is a developer or developers will come to administration and get a development permit to actually develop that particular hotel. And so most of council expressed very, very well last night their optimism that a really good development will occur on that site, that it'll be attractive and so on. And whatever development is there, the public will have an opportunity to weigh in on the development itself. So that's always critical. We're not in a zoning situation. We are not zoning the user, we are zoning the use, and that is quite a difference between a development permit, which is regulating the user, and that comes next.
Was there anything else from yesterday's council meeting you would like to mention to Shaw viewers?
Well, I would like to mention and encourage Shaw viewers, especially when we're in such a vibrant downtown space this morning. Thanks again to Nathan and his crew at Vibe. That council passed first reading of the Entertainment District bylaw last night. We're very, very enthusiastic, and we're bringing, because of the timing, we have a short summer. Council has a special council meeting coming up on June 10th. So between now and June 10th, administration will be consulting with local businesses affected on the Ross Street patio, all those good things, and coming up with a bylaw for second and third reading of council that we'll hear on June 10th. All things being equal, we'll have an entertainment district by the middle of June, and that will mean an enhanced usage of the Ross Street patio, which is extremely exciting. And I'm happy this morning to give the final word and the just and honorable and right word to my colleague here, Deputy Mayor Barnstable.
No, it's been, I don't know if I want to talk specifically about last meeting, but our council as a whole, just the amount of, the things that maybe the public doesn't see is the amount of camaraderie that we have as a council. And even just when we get our, our little 5-minute breaks and that sort of thing, the amount of joy and just the togetherness that our group has. something that the community doesn't see. And it's interesting because we have a group of very different opinions. We have a group that I think well represents Red Deer, but at the same time, we're a council that gets along well. We're respectful of each other, and when the chips are down, like I said before, we want our voices heard, and we want to make sure that those pieces are met. But at the same time, we do actually enjoy having our meetings together and our little bit of our breaks that we have. And I think Councillor Dirksen always has some sort of comedic relief for us in one of his comments sections. So no, it's been great. So I think last night's council meeting was another one that's pushing Red Deer in the right direction. And every 2 weeks we have these, and now we have a couple other new ones coming up that are not every 2 weeks, but it's moving in the right direction. And so it's good for the community to know that. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us here today with Shaw, and we're at the wonderful studio downtown, Vibe Studio, and it's been great to sit here and chat, and we look forward to meeting with you in a couple weeks. I won't be here because I'm not the deputy mayor anymore, but you get to deal with our mayor again, and I believe you have Councillor Dirksen will be the mayor next month as well. So.